Tell me, have you encountered any skepticism with creating your brand?
Lots. I think that if you are building a brand and you encounter no skepticism at all, that's almost a red flag because it means that
Wow.
you aren't doing something that is unique enough or revolutionary enough.
Yes.
And people will always sort of reject what's new and what's different and what's potentially changing a market. You know, they they want to stick with what they know. And so one
Yeah.
of the uphill battles that you face as a new indie brand is trying to provide that education and build trust with customers so that they understand the mission that you're on and the value that you bring.
I
But
love that.
it is certainly an uphill battle. Yeah.
Wow. And tell us, what are your personal daily wellness practices as the expert?
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, first of all, and again, this is part of me being very candid and transparent, is that they've
Hmm.
evolved. You know,
Okay.
I've hit peaks and I've hit troughs, and it's interesting. I know a couple of other founders in the wellness space who can relate to this, but sometimes there's a bit of irony in building a wellness brand because you are wanting to bring well-being to your customers and you're working so hard to do that that
Yeah.
you neglect your own well-being in the process.
Wow.
And so I I have evolved. I've learned a few things, and my daily wellness routine currently involves going to the gym. I
Hmm.
I've learned that I really can't neglect that,
Yeah.
otherwise my mental health certainly suffers. Um, I also take my own products, so I take my own medicine.
Yeah.
My sidekick is a daily routine. I take it when I have my coffee in the morning, and I find that it not only gives me a little bit of that uplifting feeling for the day, but it also smooths out my caffeine high a bit.
Very
So it's
good.
not, yeah, so it's just not so like spiky and
Yeah.
intense. It's a little bit smoother. And then I try to spend as much time outside as possible. And I think this is where the shift in lifestyle from Austin to the farm and to a small town has honestly played a bigger role in my day to day well being than anything else I have done in my routine
Wow.
because it it has allowed me the opportunity to spend so much more time in nature than I
Yeah.
was in Austin. I am around the animals. We have sheep on the farm. My
Oh.
mom has a horse who's like really lovely. We've got the dogs that are like free to run around here and they're like in doggy heaven. And I've just, I've incorporated so much more of that sort of time in my
Mm.
day. And it really does change my mindset. I also will say there is something very healing about being in a small town because what would have been an extremely stressful commute just to go to the
Yeah.
post office and the grocery store and run errands is so quick and simple and like friendly.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm on a first name basis with the guy at the post office. If something comes in, they'll literally call me on my cell phone and be like, hey,
Wow.
you have a package. And, you know, we have people who help us out around the farm. And there's such a feeling of like community
Yeah.
and helpfulness. The other day, we have a little farm stand on the corner of the
Oh,
property.
nice.
And the other day we were stringing up Christmas lights, and Shannon and I, and we were struggling with the Christmas lights on the flagpole a little bit. And one of the policemen was driving by,
Oh.
and he stopped and he was like, "Oh, let me help you." And we know him
Wow.
by first name. His name's Mike.
Yeah.
and stuff like that. You do not have that in a big
No,
city.
no.
And those things are so good for your nervous system. I learned a term, I guess, or a concept when I was living in Austin. And it was this concept of like low lying, consistent stress. When you live in an environment where you do not know your neighbors and you do not have that community, that
Yeah.
sense of community, and that really feeling like, you know, you could go next door and get help from them, or that you're really all looking out for each other and things like that. And I think, you know, that's not to say every urban neighborhood doesn't have that sense of community.
Of course.
But mine in particular did not.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you just don't really feel safe, but you don't realize it. It's not on the surface level, but it's underneath it. It's
It's like a low lying, yeah.
Yeah.
And that is the thing, isn't it, with blue zones and the places in the world where people live the longest, community's number one.
Yep.
And I was my next question was going to be, what would you suggest for some of your principles for our listeners if they wanted to kind of improve their lives today? What would it be? But I ask almost every guest this, and it's always go outside in nature and cultivate community. And they are the things, and it's not going to be a quick product or one certain food that you can eat to make your whole life better. It is those simple principles of community and then getting outside in nature that can change your life in a way. It was funny. I'm from Dublin. I'm from Ireland. And now we obviously live in Austin. But in Dublin, I had a sense of like, yeah, there's so much community that everybody's just all up in your business all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So
word travels fast.
That's the one. Not the downside, but I think I pulled away from that a little bit and was very happy to be in Austin. And obviously America as a whole is such a bigger space, and you're almost so anonymous in America because nobody knows you. In Dublin, you can't go anywhere without somebody hearing that you were there and then it getting back to you because it's so small. But now we've moved out to kind of a suburb of Austin, and it is so sweet. Like, my kid goes to a school that's walking distance. Our neighbor came over and dropped in a puzzle that she had finished and she knew we'd like. And all those little things, they feel so good inside when they happen, but they're so... they're not something that you're physically ingesting, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like it's just happening, but it is giving you such a sense of well-being. So it's like the takeaway from every episode is community, nature. That is the way to do it. Hey everyone, Chelsea here. I would love to take a moment to introduce you to our app, Yoga Plus. You will gain access to an incredible collection of videos led by top instructors in yoga, fitness, nutrition, and so much more. Download our Yoga Plus app today and get a free 14-day trial.